Los Angeles, where federal and local law enforcement arrested more than a dozen suspected leaders of a violent street gang with reported ties to the Mexican mafia.
Federal and local authorities have conducted a series of raids in San Pedro, targeting members and also associates of the Mexican mafia.
Federal and local law enforcement have just delivered one of the hardest hits to organized Mexican mafia criminals in Southern California's modern history. In a coordinated pre-dawn assault across San Pedro, FBI agents and Los Angeles police raided multiple targets connected to the notorious Rancho San Pedro gang, a violent crew that for decades operated under the control and protection of the Mexican mafia. 14 suspected leaders were taken into custody in a single morning. The raids, executed under 16 federal warrants, capped off a multi-year joint investigation that reached from neighborhood street corners to prison cells and cartel outposts in Mexico.
Of one of the most violent street gangs that has been terrorizing San Pedro for years. The arrests that have come from today, the search warrants that were executed today, are the product of a terrific partnership.
Agents described it as a direct strike against the operational backbone of a gang once believed to be untouchable. The takedown wasn't about one neighborhood, they said. It was about breaking a chain that stretched across borders, connecting local murders and drug deals in Los Angeles to command orders whispered inside California's most secure prisons. The operation, led by the FBI's Los Angeles field office in partnership with LAPD's Harbor Division, Homeland Security Investigations, and the California Department of Justice, dismantled what officials call one of the region's most violent and profitable criminal enterprises. Agents seized firearms, narcotics, ledgers, and coded communications, showing how Rancho San Pedro collected street taxes, mandatory payments extorted from smaller gangs and drug dealers, and funneled that money directly to imprisoned Mexican mafia leaders. Each page of evidence read like a corporate ledger: amounts owed, product moved, territory controlled. Federal analysts say it confirmed what investigators had long suspected. The Mexican mafia was no longer just running prison yards. It was managing a multi-million-dollar business empire through loyal street gangs acting as regional enforcers. At the center of it all was the Rancho San Pedro network, a 6-click structure of roughly 500 members controlling methamphetamine, fentanyl, heroin, cocaine, and PCP distribution across Los Angeles, Long Beach, and the South Bay. For years, residents of San Pedro lived under an invisible government of fear. Dealers paid tribute to avoid beatings. Business owners handed over cash to prevent vandalism or worse. The gang's reach extended to housing projects, shipping docks, and entire blocks where police patrols were met with silence. Federal prosecutors say that for the first time in 40 years, that silence was broken, and broken loudly. FBI Director Kash Patel called the operation a national turning point. The era of cartels and their street armies operating freely in America is over, he said during a press briefing in downtown Los Angeles. Patel emphasized that the Bureau's mission now goes beyond arresting dealers or seizing drugs. It's about dismantling the systems that allow transnational crime to function inside U.S. borders. He vowed to strip gangs of their resources, prosecute leadership under federal RICO laws, and return control of the streets to the communities that have lived under fear for generations. His message was blunt. Every crew that answers to a cartel, every gang that sends money back to a prison cell, we're coming for them next. For law enforcement veterans who have watched San Pedro's gang violence evolve since the 1970s, this was more than an arrest count. It was history catching up. The FBI and LAPD didn't just remove a group of criminals. They disrupted a command structure that once linked Los Angeles neighborhoods to Mexican cartel leadership. It took years of surveillance, wiretaps, and patient groundwork to make the morning of the raids possible. By the time the sun rose over the harbor, helicopters hovered above sealed streets, armored vehicles rolled through alleys, and a decades-old reign of intimidation was coming to an end. The investigation that led to the takedown of Rancho San Pedro began quietly, buried within the FBI's Organized Crime Drug Enforcement Task Force's OCDETF program nearly 3 years ago. Agents were tracking suspicious cash transfers, encrypted calls, and narcotics shipments across Los Angeles Harbor when one pattern kept reappearing. Every trail led back to a single network operating out of San Pedro's housing blocks. What looked like routine drug dealing was, in reality, a sophisticated command system built around 6 interconnected cliques, each with its own captains, enforcers, and distributors. Investigators say the gang had evolved far beyond its street-level roots. It was a corporate-style structure tied directly to the Mexican Mafia's prison command chain, with each sale generating revenue that climbed all the way up the hierarchy. The scope was staggering. Federal analysts estimated the group was moving hundreds of pounds of methamphetamine, fentanyl, cocaine, and heroin annually, enough to feed an entire regional narcotics market. At sunrise, the silence broke. Tactical teams from the FBI, LAPD, HSI, and the California DOJ moved simultaneously on multiple addresses in San Pedro, Wilmington, and Long Beach. Helicopters circled low as armored Bearcat vehicles blocked intersections. Officers wearing full ballistic gear shouted commands as battering rams hit steel gates. Inside, suspects scrambled to destroy phones, toss cash, or flee through backyards. But the perimeter was already sealed. K-9 units swept through stash houses where drugs were vacuum-sealed in false walls and underfloors. On one property, agents found a loaded AK-47 beneath a child's bed. In another, a ledger listing tax payments sent to Mexican Mafia members incarcerated at Pelican Bay and Corcoran state prisons. The precision of the raids was surgical. 14 suspects detained within an hour, their communication lines severed before sunrise. By mid-morning, all detainees were being processed at the federal building downtown. Prosecutors wasted no time unsealing the indictment. 13 defendants now face charges under the Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act, RICO, while a 14th stands accused of being a felon in possession of firearms. The charges outline a violent criminal enterprise that blended gang hierarchy with cartel discipline. Prosecutors allege the defendants ordered assaults and murders to enforce obedience, directed drug distribution through the harbor region, and laundered proceeds through local auto shops and small cash businesses. The FBI said this operation dismantled the gang's financial and command infrastructure, leaving it incapable of issuing new orders or collecting street-level extortion payments. Each suspect now faces potential life imprisonment, a penalty federal prosecutors say fits the scale of destruction the gang left in its wake. But what truly raised the stakes was what agents discovered about the gang's international ties. Evidence recovered during the raids links Rancho San Pedro directly to Sinaloa cartel intermediaries, high-level suppliers responsible for providing bulk quantities of methamphetamine and fentanyl to California's urban markets. Federal analysts confirmed that the gang operated as the cartel's primary Southern California distribution arm, handling storage, packaging, and retail sales through trusted neighborhood networks. In return, a portion of profits was wired or smuggled back across the border. Tribute money for cartel bosses and imprisoned Mexican Mafia shot callers. One Homeland Security investigator described it bluntly. They weren't street thugs anymore. They were a branch office of the Sinaloa cartel operating inside Los Angeles. As the news broke, senior officials addressed the public with a united front. FBI Assistant Director Akil Davis called the takedown a significant setback for Rancho San Pedro and their Mexican Mafia handlers, emphasizing that the operation proved how deeply cartels had embedded themselves into American urban life. LAPD Chief Jim McDonnell praised detectives for their persistence, saying the investigation connected every street corner shooting to the prison hierarchy, pulling the strings. Acting U.S. Attorney Bill Essayli called the arrests proof that federal and local cooperation can dismantle criminal empires from the ground up. Together, they made one thing clear. This was not just a law enforcement success, it was a message. The days of the Mexican Mafia dictating orders from prison cells while their foot soldiers ruled Los Angeles streets are numbered. By midday, the full weight of Operation San Pedro Silence was visible across Los Angeles Harbor. Federal vehicles lined Pacific Avenue. Agents hauled crates of evidence, rifles, cash bundles, narcotics, phones, and coded notebooks into armored vans while forensic teams logged every serial number and fingerprint. Helicopters hovered above the housing projects that had, for decades, served as safe ground for Rancho San Pedro. Residents stepped outside for the first time in months without fear. For years, these blocks had echoed with gunfire and intimidation. Extortion payments were as routine as rent. Local shop owners said they used to keep 2 ledgers, one for sales and one for protection money. But now those same doors stayed open as agents sealed crime scenes and began returning seized property. One resident described the morning simply, "For the first time I saw my street full of police, and I wasn't scared. I felt free." Officials call this the most surgical blow ever delivered against a Mexican mafia-linked street enterprise in Los Angeles. The arrests decapitated the organization's hierarchy, eliminating its ability to issue orders or enforce taxes across Southern California. Agents seized detailed accounting sheets listing thousands in monthly profits from drug and extortion rackets. Dozens of weapons were recovered, including high-powered rifles, stolen handguns, and extended magazines. The gang's stash houses yielded methamphetamine, fentanyl, heroin, and counterfeit prescription pills, all stamped and packaged for retail street sale. Federal forensic teams confirmed that several seized firearms matched ballistics from unsolved shootings in Wilmington and Long Beach. The evidence paints a picture of a gang that didn't just sell drugs, it ruled through fear and violence. Now, that rule has been broken. The social impact of the operation became visible almost immediately. In San Pedro's Harbor View neighborhoods, where mothers once warned children to duck at night, families gathered outside again. Community leaders told reporters that the takedown lifted a weight from the neighborhood. LAPD officers began joint patrols with local outreach workers to assure residents the crackdown was permanent, not temporary. Inside the Federal Command Center, analysts mapped out what they called the ripple effect. Smaller gangs collapsing without Rancho's leadership or protection, dealers abandoning corners, and extortion victims finally reporting crimes they'd kept silent for years. A senior LAPD lieutenant described it as a reset. "We took the oxygen out of their economy. No taxes, no orders, no product. The system suffocates." Federal prosecutors say the operation will now move into Phase 2, targeting financial channels and satellite crews still funneling money to imprisoned Mexican mafia shot callers. Banking records, cryptocurrency transactions, and wire transfers seized during the raids are now under review by the IRS Criminal Investigations Division. The FBI's Los Angeles field office confirmed that follow-up warrants are already being prepared for secondary Mexican mafia-linked cells in Riverside, Orange County, and Las Vegas. These cells, investigators believe, were part of a wider Sinaloa cartel logistics network that relied on Rancho San Pedro as its harbor distribution point. Homeland Security's intelligence branch is now coordinating with Mexican federal counterparts to identify the cross-border financiers who kept those payments flowing. FBI Director Kash Patel closed the day's briefing with a statement that summed up the operation's meaning. "This takedown is not the end. It's the beginning of a new enforcement chapter," he said. For too long, organized gangs have used fear to control American neighborhoods while their leaders sat comfortably behind prison walls. Those walls no longer protect them. Patel confirmed that Operation San Pedro Silence would continue statewide, expanding to other Mexican mafia satellite groups under a unified federal strategy. As dusk fell over Los Angeles, convoys of black SUVs rolled away from the harbor, leaving behind streets still blocked by yellow tape but quieter than they had been in years. For the families who lived through decades of intimidation, that silence meant something powerful, a sign that the era of the Mexican mafia's open control over Los Angeles had finally begun to end.